Hello, everyone, and welcome. I'm excited to start today's presentation with you. The topic we're going to explore is prerequisites, a key foundation for what's to come. On this first slide, I just want to briefly introduce what we'll be covering today. We'll look at the essential requirements and background knowledge needed to set us up for success. So, let's dive in and get started. Let's talk about the prerequisites for marriage according to Hanafi jurisprudence. First, it's important to understand that these are the essential conditions that must be met for a marriage to be valid. One of the key prerequisites is that the person must be free. This means that slaves or those in bondage are not eligible to marry unless they are granted freedom. Next, the individual should have reached the age of maturity, which is when they are legally recognized as an adult and capable of making such decisions. Along with that, a sound mind is crucial, meaning the person must be sane and fully aware of their actions, ensuring their consent is genuine. Good health is also a necessary condition, because marriage involves responsibilities that require physical and mental well-being. Additionally, having provisions or the means to sustain oneself and one's family is important. This reflects stability and readiness for marriage. The means of travel are considered because, historically, proximity and the ability to maintain relationships were significant. Lastly, the concept of mahram, or protective kin, is vital. A mahram is someone with whom marriage is prohibited due to close kinship, ensuring that certain boundaries are maintained for modesty and social order. All these prerequisites are interconnected and contribute to ensuring that marriage is entered into responsibly and with proper awareness, aligning with the broader principles of Islamic family life. Let's go through some of the key prerequisites for performing Hajj. First, you need to have a certain level of ability, which includes being able to find the way to the house of Allah, which is the Kaaba in Mecca. It's also important that you have good health to undertake such a physically demanding journey. Additionally, you should have sufficient provisions, meaning you are prepared with the necessary resources for the trip. Next, the concept of Islam, or being a Muslim, is fundamental here. This is the core requirement, being a Muslim who sincerely intends to perform Hajj. Freedom is also essential. A person must be free and not a slave, as Hajj is a duty that cannot be performed on behalf of someone else who is enslaved. Adulthood is another requirement. While minors can perform Hajj, and their efforts are valid, the obligation remains on adults. Sanity is equally important. One must be of sound mind to understand and fulfill this religious duty properly. Finally, having a mahram, or a trustworthy male relative, is recommended for safety and comfort during travel. Alternatively, it is acceptable to go with a trustworthy female companion if a mahram isn't available. All these points connect to the overall theme of preparing properly and ensuring that the conditions are right for performing Hajj in a way that is valid and spiritually meaningful. Today, I want to talk about the prerequisites for performing Hajj, which are essential to understand before undertaking this important journey. First, the person must be a Muslim, as Hajj is an Islamic obligation. Reaching the age of maturity is also necessary. However, even minors can perform Hajj if they have permission from their guardian. It's important to be sane, meaning the individual should have full mental capacity to understand and fulfill the rites of Hajj. Additionally, one must be able to undertake the journey physically and financially. This includes having good health, sufficient provisions, and enough money to cover travel expenses and other needs during the trip. Lastly, having a mahram, or a trustworthy male relative, is a key requirement for women to perform Hajj. If a mahram isn't available, there are alternative options, such as traveling with a trustworthy female group or an authorized group that ensures safety and compliance with Islamic guidelines. These prerequisites are designed to ensure that the person performing Hajj is prepared, capable, and protected throughout this sacred journey. Let's take a closer look at the prerequisites outlined here. First, it's important to note that these are specific conditions that need to be met. They include being Hanbali, Muslim, an adult, sane, and free from slavery. Each of these points is crucial because they establish the necessary qualifications for certain Islamic practices or negotiations. Being Hanbali refers to following the Hanbali school of Islamic jurisprudence, which is one of the four main schools. Recognizing someone as Muslim is fundamental, as these guidelines are rooted in Islamic law. The individual must be an adult, meaning they have reached the age of maturity, and sane, indicating they possess sound mental capacity. Being free from slavery is also emphasized here, as it affects legal and social rights within Islamic law. Moving on to provisions, two key points are highlighted. Mahram for a woman. Mahram refers to a person with whom marriage is permanently forbidden, such as a close relative, which has implications for privacy and safety. Overall, these prerequisites are designed to ensure that the individual is legally and ethically prepared for the obligations or processes we're discussing. They set the foundation for understanding who is eligible and under what conditions, tying back into the broader theme of ensuring proper adherence to Islamic principles. Let's talk about the prerequisites related to age when it comes to Hajj. The narration from Ibn Abbas, RAA, tells us that the Messenger of Allah, letter FDFA, mentioned a very important point. He said that any minor, meaning a child who performs Hajj, must perform it again once they come of age. This emphasizes that Hajj performed by children isn't considered complete in the full sense, and they are required to redo it when they are mature. Additionally, the Prophet, letter FDFA, mentioned that if a slave performs Hajj and then gains their freedom, they also need to perform Hajj again. This shows that the act of Hajj, in the eyes of Islamic law, is linked to certain conditions, including the state of the person at the time of performing it. It's important to note that these narrations are considered mawquf, meaning they are linked to the companions and not directly from the Prophet himself, but they still hold significant weight. Overall, these points highlight that age and status can influence the validity and obligations of Hajj. It reminds us that performing Hajj is a serious act with specific conditions, and fulfilling these key prerequisites ensures that the pilgrimage is valid and complete. This ties into our broader discussion about the essentials and conditions for a valid Hajj, helping us understand the importance of intention, maturity, and rightful status. Let's talk about the concept of Mahram, which is an important prerequisite when it comes to travel for Hajj or Umrah. In this hadith narrated by Ibn Abbas, we see a clear example of how the presence of a Mahram is essential. A man approached the Prophet, letter FDFA, and explained that he had enlisted in a specific military campaign, but at the same time, his wife was leaving for Hajj. The Prophet, letter FDFA, advised him to go back and perform Hajj with his wife. This shows us that having a Mahram, someone who is legally allowed to accompany a woman, is a key condition for women traveling for Hajj or Umrah. It's about ensuring safety, protection, and adherence to Islamic guidelines. This narration highlights the importance of planning and adhering to these prerequisites, especially when it involves complex travel plans. The overall theme here is that Islamic law prioritizes safety and dignity, and having a Mahram is a part of that. So, in essence, before embarking on Hajj or Umrah, women should ensure they have a suitable Mahram with them, aligning with the teachings and principles of Islam to make the journey safe and permissible. Let me tell you a story narrated by Adi bin Hatim that highlights some important prerequisites, specifically Mahram. While I was in the city of the Prophet, a man approached him with a concern about destitution and poverty. Soon after, another man came forward, complaining about being robbed by highwaymen. The Prophet then asked me, "Adi, have you been to Al-Hira?" I replied that I hadn't visited it myself, but I had heard about it. He then made a profound statement, saying, "If you live long enough, you will see that a lady in a howdah traveling from Al-Hira will safely reach Mecca and perform the tawaf of the Kaaba, fearing none but Allah." This story underscores the importance of faith and trust in Allah's protection. I wondered to myself, what will happen to the robbers from the tribe of Tai who have spread evil throughout the land? The Prophet continued, "If you live long enough, you will see the treasures of Khosrau being opened and taken as spoils." When I asked if he meant Khosrau, son of Hermas, he confirmed it. He then added that, if I were to live long enough, I would witness someone carrying a handful of gold or silver, searching for someone to accept it from him, but finding no one willing. This serves as a reminder of how wealth and power can diminish over time, especially when people turn away from faith and righteousness. Overall, these stories connect to our theme by illustrating the importance of trust in Allah, the significance of having a mahram for safety and companionship, and understanding how worldly possessions and status are temporary. It reminds us to prioritize faith and righteousness above material gains, as those are what truly sustain us. When meeting Allah, each of us will stand without needing an interpreter, face to face with our Creator. And Allah will ask, "Didn't I send you a messenger to teach you?" We will respond, "Yes." Then He will ask, "Didn't I give you wealth and favors?" And again we will say, "Yes." At that moment, we will look to our right and see nothing but hell, and to our left also hell. This highlights the importance of living a life guided by faith and righteous deeds to avoid such a fate. Furthermore, I heard the Prophet FDFA say, "Save yourself from the fire, even with half a date given in charity. If you can't find even that, then at least say a good, pleasant word." This reminds us that even small acts of kindness and charity can be a means of salvation. I also witnessed a lady traveling from Al-Hira to perform the tawaf of the Kaaba, fearing none but Allah. Her devotion is an example for us all. I was fortunate to be part of those who conquered the treasures of Khosrau, the son of Hermas, illustrating the rewards of faith and perseverance. And if we live long enough, we will see what the Prophet FDFA predicted, that people will come out with only a handful of gold or silver, yet still, Allah's mercy and justice prevail. This entire reflection ties back to the central theme, our accountability before Allah and the importance of living a life filled with faith, charity, and sincere devotion. On this final slide, I want to highlight a beautiful story narrated by Ibn Abbas Raa. It shows how the Prophet FDFA encountered some riders at Ar-Raha, a place near Madinah. When he asked them, "Who are you?" they responded with their own question, "Who are you?" And he clearly identified himself as the messenger of Allah. What's truly inspiring is that, in this encounter, a woman lifted a boy and asked the Prophet if this boy would be rewarded for Hajj. His response was very encouraging. "Yes, and you too will be rewarded." This teaches us a significant point. Reward in Islam isn't limited to the act itself, but also extends to those involved, including children and women. This story connects to our overall theme by emphasizing that sincere intentions and actions, even in minor matters, are acknowledged by Allah. It reminds us that Allah's mercy and reward are accessible to everyone, regardless of age or gender, as long as our intentions are pure. It's a beautiful example of how Allah's justice and mercy encompass all, encouraging us to strive sincerely in our faith and deeds.